Welcome to PodSpot, the podcast where we explore the transformative power of HubSpot with thought leaders and HubSpot experts. I'm Jon Pittham, founder of HubSpot consultancy Karman Digital, and today we have the fantastic guest joining us, and Ryan Hall, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jon. Really appreciate it. How are you doing today?
Yeah, so I've got quite a spiel of your CV in front of me here. So I'm going to read this, and it sounds impressive, Ryan. And I know it's impressive because I know your background.
Just for the record, if it's impressive, it might be someone else's.
No, it is yours. So Ryan is the founder of Friday Solved and a seasoned expert in building sales systems for agencies and businesses with over 23 years of experience in revenue generation and agency growth, including 2 successful exits. He knows exactly what it takes to turn sales from an unpredictable hustle into a scalable, repeatable machine. Ryan specializes in operationalizing sales, helping businesses move beyond relying on referrals and inbound leads to building structured, data-driven sales engines. He's passionate about helping leaders apply RevOps principles to sales, bridging the gap between process, technology, and people to create sustainable success. And in this episode, we're going to dive into the biggest sales challenges businesses face and how to build scalable sales processes and why RevOps is kind of key to making that work. So Ryan, before I hand over to you, you were referred to me a few years ago by someone I really admire in business. So the fact you were referred to me by that guy, I was like, okay, this guy's good. And then I heard that you sold the business to Accenture. So that kind of added to that kind of your credibility in my book. So Ryan, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you. And thanks for the very kind introduction as well. I think you should have a word with our marketing team, actually. I think it's really beautifully put.
So you're still involved in sales process. You know, you do loads of this stuff day in, day out. Is that right?
Yeah, still very hands-on. And, Friday Solved's my third agency, and it's the thing that I promised my wife I would never do. But I think if I wasn't doing it, I'd be lost. I mean, I'm so passionate about what we're achieving in the business. Also, I might be in a plastic bag under the patio in the back garden, actually, because she probably would have murdered me by now, to be honest, if I didn't have something else to focus on. But yes, back at it, very hands-on and helping business transform.
Yeah, great. So I started my career in sales, a graduate trainee. I was a sales guy. I covered an area in southeast of the UK for a big insurance company. And I love sales. Sales is great. And I really love where sales has got to now with technology and AI. I mean, it's crazy, really, right? When I started my sales job, I'm sharing my age now, we didn't have mobile phones. Okay, so I was out in the car, whatever. But sales has moved on so far. And we're talking, I guess, a little about RevOps today, but importantly, SalesOps, which is kind of a subset of RevOps, I guess. So kind of starting off with the big question, you've worked with lots of businesses building scalable systems, etc. What are the biggest challenges you come across?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we've got long enough, Jon, but let's see where we can start. So the first thing is, in most parts, businesses are trying too hard to sell. So, we've got this philosophy called don't sell. And honestly, I think that is a really important thing for any business to adopt, because no one wants to be sold to, right? Especially in today's age, like cold calling, you're going back to like pre-mobile phones, right? With cold calling, like there was an expectation that it was just part of the process. Cold calling is very difficult now, right? Because fundamentally, we're all so busy. We've got so many screens and apps and notifications and all this kind of stuff. So as a salesperson trying to cut through all that noise, it's really difficult. And even if you look at like one channel, like telephone, it's very difficult to intrude on people's lives and get into and in front of someone. And then you've got the short attention spans that everyone has right now, and being able to listen and get your point across in such a very short manner, it's a very difficult thing to do. Now, your point about technology and AI and tools, that allows us and affords us so many other interesting opportunities to get our voice out there. But again, I think one of the biggest challenges, most people are trying to use their challenges just in a too much of a salesy way. They're trying too hard to sell too early. And, if you are, as you say, like such a seasoned sales professional, having been doing it for that long, you'll know that the fundamental thing inside sales is relationship and trust. And, using those new technology platforms sparingly is probably problem number 2. And again, like if you couple problem one and problem two, and people trying to jump in with a sales opportunity and blasting people with a million trillion notifications on whatever channel it is, that makes sales really difficult for people.
Yeah. So, and all of that kind of chimes with me, and and this whole idea, particularly in B2B sales, that the sales journey isn't linear. So it's this nurture, it's being in the conversation at the right time, whether it's online or telephone or and all of that. The sales journey is relatively complex, and this idea it's binary, hit the phones, have a conversation, and they're going to drop because you catch them at the right time just doesn't work. So, I mean, sales targets always go up, right? That's what happens. No one sees their sales target down. So why do you think that sales teams struggle to hit their numbers, hit their quotas?
Again, number one, just selling too hard. Like we are naturally becoming more and more and more impatient as human beings. The kind of sense of instant gratification, right? And the idea of, well, I'm important in my own head. If I'm going to get a chance to speak to this person, whether it's email, LinkedIn, phone, an event, whatever it is, there's still kind of an expectation that, well, I'm important. They're going to want what I have at the moment of me telling them what I can offer that person. And we all know, if you've been in sales long enough, sales is also a timing thing. Chancing the opportunity to meet someone at the right time, at the right place, with the right need, and you've got the right solution. That is a needle in a haystack, if not a worse situation than that. So again, this kind of sense of instant gratification, people give up too early on opportunities because they're waiting for the right time, right place, right moment thing. And, I think it's becoming a slightly lost art, this kind of patience and relationship building opportunity. Again, kind of driven by a lot of kind of cultural change around instant gratification that, they don't need my solution. I'm on to the next thing. When actually it's still probably a very viable opportunity over time if you're willing to put the effort and the time in. Now, not to kind of get to solution mode, I'm sure we've got more questions coming about this, but actually I think that's where technology and AI and all of those interesting tools actually help salespeople be more patient and do more things and get more scale and play the long game rather than worrying about the short game.
So that, and you kind of preempted my next question, which is wonderful, right? Because I'm just about to talk about RevOps and SalesOps, and arguably how you structure technology and process to aid the longer term sales journey. We all know, and actually it's a big well, I guess it's the low hanging fruit when we're talking to firms about deploying CRM, deploying HubSpot is, ensuring that the salespeople just track follow ups. They if the deal isn't there now, okay, so when's the opportunity? Is it 6 months time? Is it a year's time? Is it 3? So how does building out process and technology sales ops, if you like, help that longer sales journey, help people to be there when the time is right, when there is an opportunity?
Right strategy and right process can make naturally talented salespeople undefeatable, right? Because naturally salespeople, I'm generalizing, so if anyone's listened to this and they're not this kind of salesperson type, I apologize in advance, but salespeople are a certain personality type and they are naturally good at like engaging people and pulling people in. What they're less natural at, and maybe even include myself in this, or certainly my younger self, less process orientated, less detail orientated. So they're very good in the here and the now, but they're perhaps less good when it comes to organization and structure. So I think if you can bring the mindset of organization and structure and the right process to create more rigor around the way that sales teams actually operate on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis, whatever it may be, that rigor really, it becomes a massive superpower for those naturally talented salespeople to do better. So the example that you gave there, follow-up reminders. If you've got a large pipeline going from very cold all the way down to potentially bottom of funnel closing, or at least there's a proposal in the mix, how can anyone remember all of those opportunities and exactly where they are and exactly when you should follow up and exactly what the last conversation was? Because there's an insight in every conversation. It's impossible. So I think that in its very simplicity, having a great CRM at the heart of this is a powerful tool that can enable people to be good at what they're good at. And then there's a bit of a rigor and control and a safety net behind them to make sure you fill the gaps and the bits that you're not good at.
Yeah. that rigor and control, it's a discipline, isn't it, for salespeople? If they, I know a lot of people, exactly as you say, they get on the phone, they pick up, but that little bit of detail stuff. And that's, I guess, where sales ops and RevOps comes in. It builds process around it. It makes it easy, automated recording of conversations, automated logging with AI now, automated notes, automated follow-up actions that drop in. That's where it's all going now. And I guess that's what you're talking about, right? When you talk about rigor around process, is just structuring all of that stuff.
It's systemization, yeah. And the salesperson can sit at the heart of the system and be the beating heart and the emotional component, but they're supported by all of those things that you're saying, John. It's the systemization that allows them to actually move faster and do more. So when we're talking about the application of technology, process, and systems into businesses to effectively kind of systemize and scale their sales operation, what we're not saying is you put all these processes in place, you need less people. Quite the opposite. You put these systems, tools, technologies, process, strategy in place, you can 10x your human capital. So you actually get more potential out of the people that you've got. Also, I mean, there's a kind of slight subnote to this as well. Like, make sure you put the right people in the right place in the pipeline, because not everyone's an end-to-end salesperson. But you can get more out of your team if you use technology, systems, processes in the right way. And that's incredibly exciting. Plus, like, this kind of AI cherry on top, which is kind of even increasing the output even more so.
Yeah. And I'm going to jump into that there, because you talked about, and I heard you talk about this on a previous podcast where you talked about the right people, the right part of the process, and particularly around, the role, particularly in B2B and arguably larger sales where, the deal might be £100,000, might be £500,000, might be more. And you've got your SDRs kind of opening doors. You've then got your BD people nurturing, and then you might actually have a team of sales engineers, consultants who actually then go and do the actual closer. Is that what you're referring to there? Right people, right seats in terms of that buyer journey?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you just take a small B2B business, doesn't matter what they do, whether a technology provider, an agency, whatever it may be, you can't get unicorns. Well, I call them unicorns for a reason, right? Yeah, okay, maybe there's a couple out there, right? But someone who has still got the energy, the drive, the ability to just throw themselves into the scale of top of funnel origination, prospecting cold, right? Someone who can do that and also still do the bottom of funnel closing for what might be a 6-figure plus deal, which requires gravitas, a load of experience, a stack of knowledge, like beyond just being a salesperson, right? You're almost becoming, some kind of like pre-sales expert, semi-SME, right? Subject matter expert. To get someone who can do both of those things and also still have the time and energy to do the middle of funnel nurture, which is still quite heavily scaled at that point as well. I mean, they are a rare breed. I've met like one or two people across the years. If you do find them, they're only that person for a very short period of time as they're transitioning from top, middle, and starting to get some bottom of funnel skills. It's a very short window before they, in their own head, go, no, I'm too, and I don't mean this in an egotistical way, but I'm too good, I'm too experienced to be doing the top of funnel thing. So it's a very short window that they could potentially ever do all of those things. Yeah. So when it comes to putting the right people in the right place, it's about splitting the funnel up. And as you said, having SDRs doing prospecting all the way down to much more sophisticated pre-sales or whoever they may be in kind of mid to bottom of funnel, and then experienced closers. Because if it's, 150K plus 6-figure, maybe 7-figure deal, that requires someone who, not to be ageist, but I've got gray hair as well, like requires a bit of gray hair and, a few laps around the track to make sure that the buyer's got the confidence that if this goes wrong, I can come and talk to you and we'll get it sorted.
Yeah.
That's what it requires.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's where thinking practically, and I know this because I had a conversation with a client recently about this, when you look at RevOps and SalesOps and technology, is you build those flags into the process. So you if a deal comes in and suddenly it goes over 6 figures, that triggers a notification somewhere to a sales leader that might look at it and go, it's this, or it's a certain sector, or it's a certain product mix. As soon as those things happen, the tech itself can arguably use that data to identify, hold on a minute, you want to put your best team on this because we know these sorts of clients have huge lifetime value with us. And it's that sort of thing, I guess, where the technology then comes into play to help that sales process, which then I guess also then leans into sort of data and the role that data plays with sales teams. Obviously it's becoming more and more important, data, and everyone talks about data. It's an absolute nightmare to keep on top of data and data governance, but that's a separate podcast. What are your thoughts on data and sales?
Yeah, all important, but try getting a salesperson to update CRM. For my sins, I follow quite a few kind of meme accounts for salespeople because obviously I see myself in every single one. But obviously, like singular, getting salespeople to update the notes in CRM is probably the hardest job for anyone. But again, then it's like, lean processes, the right technology wrapped around it. Even like if you think about AI note takers that can start to bring notes and kind of commentary back to CRM. Because, to your point, John, and I completely agree. It's so important because, if you've got an opportunity where you happen to catch a prospect and it might be coming through middle of funnel and it's warming up, but they're like, look, it's on our agenda. Give me 6 or 9 months because the board's repurposed the budget. We've got to do something else. I mean, no one can remember what's happened 6 or 9 months ago on one minor opportunity, right? So data in that respect is incredibly important. Obviously, putting the right data in the first place, whether it's prospecting, ICP, etc., really, really important. But salespeople are naturally data-driven, but perhaps less naturally technology style data driven, because what salespeople are always looking for is that the data points. So they're watching people to see how they react, the micro like body language reactions. What you say is one thing, but the way that you say it is another thing. And good salespeople are kind of peeling the information apart to look for those little data points to inform what they do next, even live in a conversation. But you got to get it into CRM because then it's scalable and it's got resilience, etc.
Yeah, definitely. And just reminds me of a couple of I guess stories or certainly a client of ours where their use of data is so impressive to feed the salespeople. So they do territory sales, so field sales, and they've got guys out on the road, guys and girls out on the road, and if they're going to an appointment, they've got it linked into, I don't know if it's Google Maps, it's some kind of mapping software. It will automatically identify other entities in that region that they should go and visit based on the propensity for them to buy their product set. I mean, it's just so clever. I remember when I was on the road, I'd drive down to Gravesend for one meeting for an hour. It's a 2-hour drive, come back. Now the data is informing. Actually, no, hold on, book a call with those guys, drop into those guys, because they're on your way. That's where data plays a really important part, isn't it? And if that can be surfaced in the CRM, make the salesperson's life easier because they want the prompts. They if they can tell, oh, give this team a call about X because they're ready, they might be interested because of this data tells us they might be interested. Great. They don't need any excuse to pick the phone up, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think intent data is getting better and better, especially if you think about the use of AI. So that scenario that you've outlined is already mind-blowing, but I think even in the next kind of 12, 24, 36 months is going to get even more interesting. Because, with AI, you can start to just look at even more data points. And even if you look at, website traffic plus as changes on LinkedIn plus a million other data points, I'm sure, to get that kind of buyer intent, that's really impressive and very, very exciting for where sales could go. And again, it goes back to your point, it is an exciting time for sales because, technology has become such a core part of the way that we operate.
Yeah. I love that phrase you've used there, actually, which I have heard before, but not enough. Intent data, and if that can be fed into the CRM, the job change at LinkedIn, you've had a previous buyer at LinkedIn, they moved to another company and they're probably in the same role, and there's your opportunity. That intent data, if that comes into your CRM, automatically creating a task for the salesperson to follow up with or whatever it might be, that's what we're talking about, isn't it? That's gold dust.
It's a very exciting time.
Yeah. So it really is, and technology, I guess, plays a big part of that. RevOps and SalesOps play a big part of that. And fundamentally, we've talked about CRM, we've talked about HubSpot, and I talk a lot about making life easy for salespeople. Adoption is we and there's nothing worse than teams that deploy CRM and make life difficult for salespeople. That's just they're going to switch off. Why do so many sales teams struggle with CRM adoption? I probably know the answer. We've kind of covered it maybe in a conversation we've just had, but what strategies have you seen that get sales reps really operating within the CRM, I guess?
For me, the thing that will always bring a sales team together is the sales culture behind the business. I think people forget that salespeople are naturally, and when I say emotional, I don't mean kind of emotionally charged or whatever it may be, but they're kind of those kinds of beasts, right? And I think that's really interesting. But often sales can be left out of the business equation a little bit because it's like, oh, it's sales. But actually, I mean, you wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for sales. So I think, getting them adopting, even as a very simplicity, like a new CRM platform, building the right culture around the team. And that culture allows for adoption and implementation of new technologies, whatever it may be, and a mindset of, this is a good thing for the business, the way that they communicate it, the way that they consult the team, the way that they take the team culturally on a journey, rather than going, right, here's a new bit of technology, flick, it's on. By the way, guys, you booked into some training sessions for the next 3 days, and that's what we're using now. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's a CRM. I mean, in any business with any kind of technology, even when it's a consumer based, that is going to be a challenge. Like, there's no sense of ownership at all. But if you get the sales culture right, the sense of ownership can come very quickly along the way. And it's not that, you have to do design by committee or decision by committee or whatever it may be. But it just means that the teams are brought along on the journey. It's
That's
basic customer experience design, right?
training for sales
They're being
teams,
brought along the journey. They feel like they've got a sense of ownership
where
over
the sales team has
it.
been
They've had a
involved
hand
in the evolution
in
of the
understanding
CRM.
like
It's
how
almost
it's
been
going to
built
affect the
around
business,
them, as
how we're going to
opposed
use
to
it, what the amazing
a
opportunities are,
operations team or
before
even
it's
an
just
IT
being
team
deployed on
saying,
them without
here you go,
really
here's your
thinking
CRM, this
about
is
the
what you need to do,
implications for
this
the
is what you need to log,
individuals
etc.
and being made to use something. Because we're humans
That
at the
can be
end of the
challenging.
day. Like, we
And
don't
what
really
other
like being
ways,
told
Ryan,
what
do
to
you
do we?
build a sales
We need to be
culture?
taken on a bit of a journey.
How do you make sales thrive in an organization?
Very simply, you've got to make sure that the culture is brought down from the top. So, in whatever kind of size organization, that the business recognizes who sales are, what they do, what their opportunity is. Sales are treated like first class citizens. I'm not suggesting that, lots of people don't, but businesses don't do it. But again, I've been a reluctant salesperson my whole career. Never really wanted to accept the S word, right? But the reality is, it's a real art. So the business needs to respect that, identify that, and they need to drive the sales culture out in the business as sales as a positive force. I also think it's about the way that those sales teams are brought to life and trained, and the style. So they represent the brand as much as anything else. So there's a nice tie in with kind of the marketing side of things and the way that the brand and the tone of voice is brought together. So they are genuine representatives of the business as well. And they also need a platform for success. Lots of businesses don't celebrate sales and the targets and the achievements. They do within the team and the department, of course, because as you said earlier, I mean, everyone's got sales targets and they only go up, they never go down. But does the rest of the business truly understand what the sales teams have to go through to achieve that? Do they even know what they've achieved? Have they got any context of how difficult that was to get those many deals? What did it actually start like at the start of the process? And that's about just pure dissemination of information and transparency around what goes into the art of sales. And I think that's massively missing in a lot of organizations.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. And one of the things I guess as we talk more about RevOps is part of RevOps is aligning sales, marketing, and customer success. And that's a challenge. And I think it's a really interesting one. We still go into organizations where marketing and sales are really siloed. And you can clearly identify the breakdown between the two. And, but where they're not, when they're really aligned, you can feel the positivity and how, marketing work with sales to drive campaigns and sales work with marketing to come up with new ideas and all that sort of stuff. So, have you got any thoughts on that sales and marketing alignment in terms of, because I mean, even now, we talk about roles which are chief revenue officer and head of growth and almost sales and marketing coming under one department, one division. What are your thoughts on that?
To that last question, I actually think the blending of those departments under one level of responsibility, one bit of leadership, is a really positive thing, because immediately you haven't got two people at board level who may or may not get on, because you've got one island and one empire over here in sales and another empire over here in marketing. I think blending that under one leader who's got board level responsibility is absolutely an exciting opportunity for any business. Getting the sales team and getting the marketing team working together is in harmony is absolutely critical. I'm not saying that they actually have to be blended in, like underneath the chief revenue officer, chief growth officer, whatever it may be. There could be two departments, but there's got to be this kind of symbiosis between the two. Because, and the personal opinion, and maybe people listening to this might disagree, I don't think you get better real-time insights on where the market is at than anywhere other than salespeople, right? Because they are actually talking to people who, they're talking to people who most parts don't want to be talking to the salesperson. So they're not pulling any punches. They're giving you properly the hard facts. And those insights, again, it comes back to your point about data as well, how you bring that back into the business. But those insights, you will not get anywhere else. I mean, marketing can send a form out and a survey, but they're going to be filled out in a very different context to the way that a salesperson is going to listen and hear and also interpret what they're hearing. However, marketing as important because the sales team naturally aren't going to be the people who are going to be able to produce amazing thought leadership content. Again, if it's got the right ingredients and, create the assets and the tools that the sales teams need to be high impact and influential and start to change opinion and drive conversations forward. So if you can get those two teams working, I mean, obviously this sounds so obvious, I was talking about it, but as you said yourself, you don't see it that often, right? But when it works, wow, I mean, incredible, because you've got two very different skill sets, brain types, personality types that naturally sit in those two camps. But if you can get them firing together, it's a really, really potent opportunity.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on with that. And one of the things that I've seen more recently is salespeople informing marketing content. We talk a lot about the content experience on the buyer journey. When just going back to the start of this conversation, when we talked about those sales opportunities that might be over 6 months or 2 years, how do you nurture those individuals? So with thought leadership content, with the right content at the right time. And if sales are working with marketing to create a suite of assets, they might even be FAQs on the website, it might be the due diligence about the products, the software, whatever it might be. But they've got this content at hand and they can give their prospects this content experience that means they're engaged, they get the right content at the right time in the right place. Then great. Then it's a nurturing and it just helps the salespeople close more deals. You're absolutely right. We use this all the time when we are working around content. Is your salespeople are the voice. They're the people we want to talk to because they're talking to customers every day or prospects every day, and understanding why you're losing deals or or why you're not moving things forward is really, really important.
I mean, look, think about it another way. I completely agree, but imagine a sales team without marketing style assets in the sales funnel. You'd take that 6-month analogy. What are they going to do? Can I have a meeting? 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 I mean, that gets tired really quick, right? You've got to kind of shift it. We talk about the gear switch, and you switch between asking and giving. And I'm not saying sales teams can't make this stuff, but naturally the marketing team they're geared up for it. And it comes down to value add, like putting useful things into the prospect's hands that educates, informs. Maybe they can even take some of this stuff away and do it themselves, right? But the salespeople are perfectly placed to put it in the hands directly of the prospect rather than just sploshing it out from a marketing perspective, which is harder to get in a more direct form. I'm not saying don't do that, it's a blend of everything. But then, giving it to the sales teams who can actually get it in front of them and then actually learn the materials and then properly bring that to life for the prospect and go, look, from our last conversation, this is a 17-page white paper, mate. But I think you should be looking at page 10, page 12, and the conclusion at the end and near page 18. I think those are the things that's going to resonate for you. All of a sudden, that's a much, much more sophisticated consultative sales experience where the prospect's going to go, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about, or these guys really know what they're talking about. That's really interesting. And that's also a much more modern consultative approach.
Yeah, and it's rare that you see that really done well, but that's where we all need to get to, right? And if we can marry up, the intent data you talked about earlier with content that's relevant based on that intent data with a system and a CRM. This is RevOps, SalesOps stuff that allows a salesperson to easily put that in front of the prospect because, they've been prompted by a LinkedIn change or whatever it might be. The right content's there. There's your dream team, right? That's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. You just need a little AI companion in the mix as well, just bringing it all together, and you're winning, right?
Yeah, well, the AI is doing it for us, we're just having the human conversations. We're building deeper relationships. We're engaging with people, better at a different level, and AI is here to help. So this is a wonderful conversation, Ryan. I love this stuff, and you're absolutely all over it in terms of sharing that knowledge. So really appreciate it. But if you were talking to someone at the moment who was really trying to think about a business trying to improve its sales capability, what would be those first steps you'd kind of get them to do?
The things that I'd get them to focus on are 5 things. Get the right strategy. I know that sounds ridiculously obvious, right? But very often from a strategy and a process and a technology perspective, which are the 3 things I'd start with, businesses try and boil the ocean. So done is better than perfect. So it doesn't have to be this completely mind-blowing, huge strategy. Get the right level of strategy to get your sales teams and sales team talk with your marketing team, but sales teams organized to start to move forward. Get some process in place. Again, you don't know what you don't know very often. So get some basic foundations in place, a bit of rigor, right people in the right place, and use the process sympathetically in your business and know that it needs to evolve on a regular basis. Technology, again, don't try and boil the ocean. We see a lot of businesses either in 2 situations, too much technology or too little technology. Too little technology is easy to fix because you can just start to nudge it up and get the right things in place. And the first thing is CRM, 100%, right? Because there's, again, too many tech baubles out there. People leap to the shiny thing and they haven't even got the foundations in place. And it starts with a good quality CRM so you can get your data in there. But again, you see businesses with way too much technology. And that's a major problem point because all of a sudden it's this kind of weird patchwork quilt of stuff and no one really knows what it's doing or putting it together. And frankly, you probably got about 10 subscriptions that you shouldn't be paying for. So that's a challenge. People, we mentioned it earlier, put the right people in the right place. Make sure you're not asking your sales teams to do too much across the funnel. Slice it up, segment it a little bit. And then culture. Make sure that there is a culture, there's transparency, sales reports back out to the wider business so people know what's happening and the excitement and the buzz. So very often we talk to people about creating channels inside the business called Sales Pulse, where any salesperson can go, just had a brand new conversation, 6 months off, but it's a really exciting brand that I know we all wanted to get to, all the way down to, I think we're about to close this deal. We're now 1 of 1 in the pitch process. Just real-time chatter becomes a really important part of establishing that culture. So it's those 5 things that I'd always recommend someone goes and has a look at.
Oh, great. Ryan, that is fantastic knowledge and really appreciate that insight. And actually there are your takeaways. Anyone listening to this who really wants to lift their sales capability, there's your 5 starting points. So tell me, Ryan, that's wonderful talking to you today. Where can people learn more about you, find out more about what you do?
LinkedIn is our shop window. All of my content, some call it propaganda, but all of our content's on LinkedIn on my profile. I'm Ryan Hall. You can come and find me, no doubt, easy enough. Come and read what we talk about. We give a lot of the answers away because we're just trying to change the market. We've got a website, of course, fridaysalt.co.uk. And we've actually just launched our YouTube channel the back end of last year as well, which has been an interesting process. It's been, look, video production, when we do a lot, we've got a really lean content machine when it comes to long form written word, but getting that working in the context of video has been a really interesting challenge. But we are there. Come and subscribe. There's always goodies launching on there every day.
I'll have to go and check that out because video is a big push for us this year. We kind of that's where we want to go. So I'll check that out. Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks for sharing all that knowledge with us. So that's a wrap for today's episode of PodSpot. A huge thank you to Ryan for joining us and sharing your valuable insights. We hope you've enjoyed exploring RevOps and sales with us. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes, share your ideas for future content, and leave us a review if you found today's discussion helpful. See you next time as we explore more about all things HubSpot. Thanks.